Great. Yeah, Roger. Well, thanks so much for that introduction. I'm Bill Wiersema. I'm a principal with Miller Cooper and Company. We're a 400-person CPA and consulting firm headquartered here in Chicago. We just celebrated our 100th anniversary last year. We're very proud of that. I specialize in financial due diligence, including overseeing quality of earnings report work, and I also serve on the AMA Midwest Chapter Advisory Board. What sets me apart is making and saving my clients 6 to 8 figures per transaction. And I'll go into how I do that during this presentation a little bit. But let's first talk about conditions, kind of the state of things. I'm very much aware because I'm very much involved with my clients during the process. My last pre-pandemic closing was Monday, March 16th. And that week, Governor Pritzker announced a stay-at-home order, which would be effective for 2 weeks. And he said Illinois would reopen April 7th. Okay, so it seems a bit ironic now looking back. But shortly after that, a bank that on another pending deal declared that it was cutting its credit facility in half. And pretty much the deal became unfeasible at that point, but the buyer didn't give up. I stuck by them, did what I could to help get the thing done. And we were finally able to secure financing and close on June 16th with the help, believe it or not, of John's Bank Wintrust. We very much appreciate their support during this chaos. But what followed after that closing is an avalanche of closings, and much of that was backlogged. But what we're finding is even new deal flow now is beginning to stabilize, and confidence is rebuilding slowly. It just seems that we're getting toward where we were pre-pandemic. Not quite there, but we're moving that direction. But at this point, the future is still unclear. As the cash flows, everyone's asking, will those businesses that are down come back, or conversely, those that experience a windfall, is that windfall sustainable? And so when you think about industries like online retailers or sellers of PPE, I'm actually working on a deal right now with one of those, or home fitness or remodeling or even moving companies, they may have increased value theoretically due to an increased cash flow and increased sales during the pandemic. However, it's unclear when or whether they might ricochet as the pandemic ends or as the markets become saturated. And conversely, I worked on aircraft MROs, which are repair and maintenance companies for aircraft. They were trading easily at multiples of EBITDA in excess of 10, even on smaller deals pre-pandemic. Of course, now they're not even for sale. I mean, they have to wait until people feel safe to travel again and until the airlines recover. So very confusing conditions. So the trends part of the slide is what I now want to address. Kind of what are people doing about all this? And other panelists can confirm that we're in a time of caution and also very heightened scrutiny. And one deal that I'm aware of failed because of sloppiness in applying cash to accounts receivable. These conditions put seller financial information under a microscope, and really that makes it my time to shine because, as I mentioned, I do due diligence. Even during April and May, potential sellers were feeling enough confidence in the future to engage me to help them prepare for sale. So what does this sell-side diligence do? Identify and vet auditions before buyers raise them, add significant value by implementing acceptable accounting methods. So I was recently able to increase a valuation, for example, from 50 to 60 million by converting inventory costing to generally accepted methods, but also find and document add backs. And today, COVID is the one, as you can see from the photo. EBITDA, that is before COVID, is the new EBITDA. And it's critical, as always, in valuation, financing, and then buyer assessment of companies. But COVID add backs, what am I talking about here? Lost orders, breaks in supply chain, safety reconfiguration, closures, remote relocation, layoffs. And on the plus side, we have forgiveness of PPP loans that we've been talking about, the Paycheck Protection Program loans. But the benefit of this EBITDA analysis is normalizing cash flow to get some higher value. Certainly quality of earnings reports are intended to identify, substantiate, and present these add backs. But now let's talk about valuation. So essential businesses may still be able to use EBITDA in kind of the conventional multiple to value businesses, but the market data are very tentative. I mean, because of this unprecedented uncertainty around valuation, for example, low volume means there's a lot less data to work off of. As we saw from the GF data, we were down to 40% roughly in volume pre-pandemic. And the data that exists is very short term. I mean, it may reflect windfalls, it may reflect temporary decline, it doesn't indicate long-term stability. We don't have that anymore that can give us comfort with the multiples that are published. The bottom line is that both buyers and sellers want assurance that their pricing is reasonable and that it's current. And the valuation professional's solution to that is use discounted cash flow, it's DCF. And I believe Mike Adhikari might even be among us today, but his software, BVX, is a wonderful option for doing that. The idea is to project cash flows in the future as objectively as you possibly can, and then build a discount factor basically from scratch, considering the various risks individually. So to the degree that that's going to get you closer to a number that you're comfortable with, and even one that you can share with the party you're negotiating with, it's a useful exercise to go through. Now, certainly there's going to be uncertainty that remains because no one has a crystal ball. As we talked about earlier, that's causing an increase in earnouts right now. And our next panelist, Mark, is going to share those structure ideas. I mean, earnouts is one, but there's also seller notes, rollover equity, and mergers. I've been actually involved in one merger so far where companies that are troubled right now because of industry conditions have decided to combine forces. So in summary, what I'm trying to point out is right now in the environment that we're in right now is that there could be different levels of work based on the parameters affecting a company. And by the way, I've written a white paper on this topic, so if you'd like it, please contact me for that copy. And in closing of my portion, I want to thank the M&A for the honor of presenting today. So Roger, we're back to you.
Thanks, Bill. We did have a question for you, Bill, so you're not off the hook yet.
All right, very good.
Somebody wanted to know if quality of earning reports are blessing COVID add-backs. I think what they want to know is how are you dealing with those in Q of E reports, specifically, you know, what kind of information and support are you asking for, and how are you handling that in Q of Es?
You know, it's interesting. I'd say that's a great question, and I'd say there's a right way and a not so right way to handle that. I'd say the more credible way is to look at specifics. So, for example, we got a loan. Does that mean that our operating expenses are reduced for that period by exactly the amount of that loan? And the answer is no. You need to go beyond that. So you need to look at, for example, were there COVID bonuses paid? Were there people that were idle on the payroll? You know, what are the true add backs here, and look at operations that way. And those funds, I mean, when and if they're forgiven, are going to be something distinct from that. You know, so I'm actually dealing with a company right now that posted all of its payments for payroll and rent against a loan balance. They didn't even show them as part of their operating expenses. And so I'm working right now to explain to them that, you know, the more credible approach is to continue to report as you have, but be very specific about these add backs. You know, you don't want to just kind of broad brush.
Yeah, thanks. That